Alright, Shalom, giving all praises, honor and glory unto Yahweh, Ba'Hashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'Hashem Rakah Kodash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone that rule well, and Shalom to your Akim that we're teaching this word around the globe with faith and truth and in sincerity. This is the brother Caleb from the GMS London Forecasters Camp, coming back with another lesson, Lord willing, to edify the hopeful elect. So, as always, I'll start by saying that we are the real Hebrew Israelites. The real Israelites are so-called Negroes, Latinos, Hispanics, Native Americans, West Indians, and West Africans predominantly. However, you are going to get Israelites that do look like the other nations, because Israel has been scattered amongst all people throughout our various captivities. But if your seed line by your forefathers goes back to the man in the Bible that was named Israel, then you too are an Israelite, no matter what you may look like, because the book of Numbers, chapter 1 and verse 18, states that your nationality is determined by the lineage of your forefathers. Okay? So, I'm just going to go in the spirit here. Just going to go in the spirit on a topic that I've been meditating on this week. And the topic is basically about being circumspect and walking wisely in this world that we're in, because what we need to remember is that this world hates us. This world hates us, yeah, because we represent the truth. So therefore they hate us. And when we're out and about, we're in the midst of enemies. You know, the scriptures say we go about as sheaves in the midst of wolves, roughly paraphrasing, because I've got a couple of examples of some stories I can tell where it's just a good reminder that you need to be aware that we are in the midst of our enemies at every second of this day. As soon as you set foot out your front door, you're in the midst of your enemies. You're surrounded by an overwhelming majority of people that are against this truth, and they hate anybody that represents this truth. So therefore, it's not very wise, nor is it very expedient, to go around and paint a target on your forehead for these demons to come and attack you, because what you need to remember is that behind all of this is spirits that are working. So while you may see people in the flesh, you know, and we see them and they may be adverse to us, what you got to remember is that for every person that is adverse to us, there's a spirit on them that's making them be adverse to us. Now, you know, the scriptures say we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against powers, principalities. Let me get this rather than just roughly paraphrasing it. It's Ephesians, the 6th chapter, and I believe the 11th verse. Yeah, this is Ephesians 6 and 10. Finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. Put on the whole armour of the Most High, that ye may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. Now, if you ain't got no armour, what does that mean? That means you're vulnerable. If you've got no armour, you're vulnerable. Let's imagine you're, let's say you're a modern day soldier and you've got a helmet. Yeah? What does the helmet do? Well, what the helmet is supposed to do is that if a bullet's, you know, heading towards your head, hopefully that bullet will be deflected by the helmet, or at least the helmet will take the brunt of the force of the bullet. I mean, you still probably get knocked out, but the helmet, under good circumstances, is supposed to protect your head from danger. Let's say you're in an ancient battle and you've got a breastplate. What's that supposed to do? The breastplate is supposed to take the damage that could be inflicted on your body, which could be fatal if you get, you know, a wound in your, like stabbed in the stomach or whatever. It could be a fatal wound. That breastplate is there to protect you. Just the same way you might have shin guards. Those are there to protect you. You know, or a shield even. You know, you've got a shield. That's supposed to protect you. Look at the film. Now, many of you have probably seen the film, was it 300? Based on the graphic novel by Frank Miller. You know, what did they do? They had their shields and they stood in their formations, which helped them to withstand was it the Persians that were attacking them, I believe? Long time since I've seen that film, but yeah, they had their formations and they needed to be able to lift their shield and hold it properly, otherwise they were going to be no good in battle. So, Ephesians 6 and 10. Finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. Put on the whole armour of the Most High, that you may be able to withstand against the wiles of the devil. Here's the point. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in higher places. So, man is very low level, at this point in time. Man is kind of like at the bottom of the totem pole. There are spirits out there who are doing the will of the Most High, who are above the level of man. That's why they can, have power over us to do certain things, because they're given power over certain things. Yeah. So when it says we wrestle against spiritual wickedness in high places, you can't underestimate how high up that hierarchy chain goes. Because there's demons out there, man. There's demons out there that will wreck your shop. I've got personal testimonies, and many brothers have got testimonies of, having the terror in the night. I don't like to call it sleep paralysis, because sleep paralysis isn't what it is. It's what Esau calls it. But, where you might get demons and they're fucking with you and they're holding you down in your sleep, and you can't scream and you can't move, you can't do anything. Well, if these demons weren't stronger than you, how would they be able to do that? They wouldn't be able to do that, would they? You'd be able to just shrug the demon off and be like, no, fuck that, I want to get up. I want to walk about. But no, when these demons sit on you and they attack you, that's when you know, shit, I ain't nothing, man. It's only the will of Yahweh B'Shem Yahweh Shai and the prayers unto Yahweh B'Shem Yahweh Shai that can deliver you from those kind of attacks. You can't fight a demon with your physical hands. What are you going to do? Throw a right hook across on the uppercut on a spiritual principality? You ain't going to do that. You ain't going to do shit. Most you probably do is piss your pants. Pardon me for putting it like that. I've got quite a sort of though I be blunt, rude in speech, but not in knowledge. Roughly paraphrasing, I'd be quite rude in speech. So hopefully my sharp tongue doesn't offend anybody. But the point of the matter is, what I'm saying is that there's forces out there that you can't measure with I got a precept. There's forces out there that you can't measure with like any system that is under our human understanding. Bear with me a second. Precept just jumped into my mind. I want to get it. Yes, there we go. Found it. 2 Ezra chapter 4 and verse 5. Alright, let me just get something as an example. Alright, before I get that, what I meant when I was saying is that I've got a tape measure in my hand. See, tape measure here. Just tape measure. On this tape measure, you've got, wrong way around. You've got the numbers here. On the top, you've got inches, and then the bottom, you've got centimeters and millimeters, yeah? So I could use this to, for example, measure the size of my apocrypha. I could measure this and say, oh, my apocrypha is 8 inches by 5.5 inches across. I've measured that with, using a system of the units of inches, yeah? But you can't measure the spiritual things. This is the point I'm trying to make. So, like if a boxer's, you could say, okay, he punches at, this kind of weight, like the boxer weighs this much, so it's a heavy weight, you measure it, yeah? They do their weigh-in and stuff like that. What are you going to do? You're going to weigh in a demon? You can't weigh in a demon. Now, here's the precept I've got. This is 2 Ezra's, the 4th chapter and the 5th verse. Now, the Most High could do it because the Most High is on a level beyond us. But as physical men, our sphere of influence is very, very, very limited. 2 Ezra is the 4th chapter and the 5th verse. It says, now let me read from 1 because there's some good stuff here. And the angel that was sent unto me, whose name was Uriel, gave me an answer. So Uriel was one of the 4 archangels. Was it Raphael, Gabriel, Michael, and Uriel? And I believe there's a few others which aren't named in the scriptures, but the ones I remember are Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, and Uriel. So Uriel's here, yeah? It says, and an angel that was sent unto me, whose name was Uriel, gave me an answer and said, Thy heart hath gone too far in this world, and thinkest thou to comprehend the way of the Most High? Then said I, Yea, my Lord. And he answered me and said, I am sent to shew thee 3 ways, and to set forth 3 similitudes before thee. And he says, Whereof, if thou canst declare me one, I will show thee also the way that thou desirest to see, and I shall show thee from whence the wicked heart cometh. And I said, Tell on, my Lord. Then said he unto me, Go thy way, and weigh me the weight of the fire. You hear that? The angel said to Ezra, Go thy way and weigh me the weight of the fire. How can you measure the weight of fire? You know, that's something that you're not going to learn in flipping GCSE science, or even A-level science, or, you know, going to university. You're not going to be able to measure the weight of fire. So it says, and I said, Tell on, my Lord. Then he said unto me, Go thy way, weigh me the weight of the fire, or measure me the blast of the wind, or call me again the day that is past. See, all these things are beyond the capacity of mortal man. You know, we can't do those types of things. We continue. And then I answered and said, What man is able to do that thou should ask me such things? And he said unto me, If I should ask thee how great dwellings there are in the midst of the sea, or how many springs are in the beginning of the deep, or how many springs are above the firmament, or which are the outgoings of paradise, peradventure thou wouldst say unto me, I never went down into the deep, nor as yet into hell, neither did I climb up into heaven. Nevertheless, now have I asked thee, but only the fire, the wind, and of the day wherethrough thou hast passed, and of these things from which thou canst not be separated, and yet canst not thou give me no answer to them. So Ezra was put in his place in a manner of speaking, because the angel was saying, if I ask you things that are above your understanding, you wouldn't know. But I'm asking you things which you have actively participated in, but yet you don't know the answer to these things. Yeah, he said moreover unto me, Thine own things, and such as are grown up with thee, canst thou not know? How should thy vessel then be able to comprehend the way of the highest, and the world being now outwardly corrupted, to understand the corruption that is evident in my sight? You know? Now, the reason why I'm saying that, because I want to get back to the point of this lesson, which is that never underestimate the spiritual principalities that we're up against. Going back to Ephesians. Ephesians chapter 6 and verse 10. Finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. Put on the whole armour of the Most High, that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Wherefore take unto you the whole armour of the Most High, that ye may be able to withstand in the evil day, having done all to stand. Stand therefore, having your loins girt about with truth, and having on the breastplate of righteousness, and your feet shod with the preparation of the gospel of peace. Above all, taking the shield of faith, wherewith ye shall be able to quench all the fiery darts of the wicked, and the helmet of salvation, and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of the Most High. This is the sword of the Spirit, the word of the Most High. Now I'm going to give a couple testimony stories, and then you'll see why I'm kind of going into this topic as a topic for a lesson. So, first testimony I want to give is, some years ago, I was at camp, and this was back when the London Central camp was on Oxford Street, and we was at the camp, and oftentimes scoffers would come up to the camp, and they would, come up against the word of the Most High. And I remember many faces from those days, because there were many faces that came up, and me personally, I've been blessed with a very good memory, so I just got a weird memory for stuff. But there was one particular dude that came up, and he said that he had heard spirits talking to him, and they've been telling him this and they've been telling him that. So the brothers tried the spirit by the spirit, and it turned out that the spirit that was on this guy wasn't a Holy Spirit. It was telling him all kinds of bugged out shit, and he couldn't accept the truth. So eventually, after he was coming up against the word, the brothers, rebuked him and told him to get on down the street. And the guy was like, he was the guy was bugged out, yeah? And he didn't know how to discern up from down, left from right, good from bad, right from wrong. He didn't know anything, and he wasn't grounded in the scriptures, and he didn't want to hear the words of the Lord. Proverbs 13 verse 13 states, let me just get it. Proverbs 13 verse 13 states, whoso despiseth the word shall be destroyed, but he that feareth the commandment shall be rewarded. Now here's the funny thing about this story. The guy went on his way. Maybe a few months later, let's just say as an arbitrary number, 4 months later or so, went to the London Central Camp, and it turned out that the brothers had moved from that spot. But when I went there, I saw a couple of other brothers who were thinking that the camp was going to be there that day, so they turned up. And we was wondering what was going on, and we got to talking. So we walked down Oxford Street a bit further, because there used to be 2 camps on Oxford Street, to try and see if the other camp was there. And as we were walking, we found that the other camp wasn't, so we was just standing around talking. We was talking about the scriptures and events in the news. It was a spiritual conversation. But as we were talking, I noticed this guy who had come up to the camp a few months before and had been rebuked. And the guys had said, you know what, man, you got demons on you. He was walking down the road, and he looked worse for wear. Like, when he came up the first time, you could see he was a little bit, he's a little bit rough around the edges. But he looked presentable. He didn't look like, like scruffy clothes and dirty, like he'd been on the streets or something. But this second time I saw him, the guy looked rough. Like, he just looked really rough, and he was walking down the road, and if I'm not mistaken, it looked like he was talking to himself. And I noticed the guy at the corner of my eye. And I went to, just because I don't like to bait things up, so I was trying to be subtle. I sort of nudged the brother that was standing next to me on the arm and said, do you remember that guy? And I said it very quietly. And this is on Oxford Street, man. And there's loads and loads of people walking down up and down Oxford Street talking. I just nudged the guy and said, do you remember that guy? And I didn't make it bait or anything like that. But as soon as I said that, the guy who got rebuked, he turned around and he had this look in his eyes, like scowling face and shit, as if he knew that I was nudging the other brother to say, hey, do you remember that guy? And I was like, I immediately sort of like, was ready for this guy to sort of, maybe do something or turn around and start arguing, or, because, I read situations, and I noticed that this guy noticed me. And I thought, whoa, how did he hear me so quietly say, hey, do you remember that guy? He noticed me, he was like, what? And then he turned around and continued down the road. Now, at the time, I just thought, okay, that's a good lesson for me. Next time I'll be a bit more vigilant and more circumspect, and I won't do that again, because I don't want to cause an unnecessary confrontation. So I learnt a bit of wisdom that day. But the more I meditated on that situation, I realized something very important, which most brothers in the truth, I have yet to hear them say this. So I don't know if they realize it or not, but I'm going to put it out there, and Lord willing, it's edifying. What you've got to remember is that we're not dealing with carnal men. It might seem like we're dealing with carnal men, but really we're dealing with spirits. Yeah? So the carnal man might be in front of you talking shit, saying, "Oh, the Bible ain't real, you know, blah blah blah. You need Jesus in your life." They might be saying that shit, but really, if we could see into the spiritual realm, there's a demon on that person making them say these things, making them do these things. It's the demon behind them. So what that situation taught me is that that guy who was walking past in the street, he didn't recognize me, but the demon on him recognized me. You see? And that's why he turned around. That's why he could hear me say in such a quiet, hushed tones to this brother next to me. He could hear me and he responded because the demon on him recognized me. Now, this goes back to the book of Acts where it says the demons recognize us. Let me get this precept. Let me get it. Yeah, Acts 19 and the 15th verse. Yeah, here we go. This is Acts chapter 19. I'm going to start from verse 13, Acts 19 and 13, okay? So it says, then let me start from 11. And the Most High wrought special miracles by the hands of Paul, so that from his body were brought unto the sick handkerchiefs or aprons, and the diseases departed from them, and the evil spirits went out of them. So basically Paul had such a strong spirit that he could, you know, pray over this person's handkerchief or whatever, and cast demons off this particular person. And it says, then certain of the vagabond Jews, exorcists, took upon them to call over them which had... Let me start again. It's like a bit distracted there. Right. It says, then certain of the vagabond Jews, exorcists, took upon them to call over them which had evil spirits the name of the Lord Yahushua, saying, we adjure you by Yahushua whom Paul preacheth. And there were 7 sons of one Sceva, a Jew, and chief of the priests, which did so. And the evil spirit answered and said, Yahushua I know, and Paul I know, but who are ye? Now that's the point, to prove my point that the spirits recognize us. It says, Yahushua I know, and Paul I know, but who are ye? So the spirit wasn't even going to recognize these guys because I guess they weren't of the elect. So the spirit done the following. It says, and the man in whom the evil spirit was leapt on them and overcame them and prevailed against them, so that they fled out of the house naked and wounded. So the demon must have put a spiritual beat down on these vagabond Jews who were trying to use the name of Yahushua to cast out demons, but they obviously weren't rooted and grounded in the truth, and ultimately they weren't of the elect. So the demon was like, Yahushua I know, Paul I know, but who are you? So that proves my point that the demons recognize us. Yeah. So now we know that it's demons behind people making them do these things. I'm going to give 2 more examples of this in action, because maybe a couple of weeks ago I was at camp with some of the brothers, and after camp we were walking to the tube station, and one of the brothers nudged me the way I would have nudged one of the other brothers in the past in the testimony I just told. He's like, hey, you recognize that guy? You recognize him? And he was speaking quite loudly, and I thought, And he's like, you recognize him? He came up to the camp when we was at Oxford Street. Now this is another dude, some Elamite looking dude, and he was standing there talking to some Christians who were teaching in the street, and he's like, do you recognize him? Recognize him? And I was thinking to myself, don't make it so bait, man. because you don't know what spirit's on that guy, and that spirit might just raise up on that man to start doing something out of pocket. You know, you just don't know, because we're dealing with spirits here, you know. Now, the scriptures do say the angel of the Lord encampeth around them that fear him, but you've got to be circumspect, and you shouldn't want to give any ammunition for a situation to escalate. You know, you shouldn't be doing that, because you can't, when you're dealing with these spirits, you've got to remember that also the judgment of the Most High is a factor. So if the judgment from the Most High is that you're going to perish, he might just raise up one of his spirits to do something weird, and you end up either wounded or hurted, or even worse, because you just don't know. Now, the reason why I'm saying this is because the scriptures did warn us that we are sheep in the midst of wolves. Let me get this. Yes, Matthew 10 and verse 16. Matthew 10 and verse 16. Behold, I send you forth as sheep in the midst of wolves. Be ye therefore wise as serpents and harmless as doves. But beware of men, for they will deliver you up to the councils, and they will scourge you in their synagogues. So, let me read that again. Behold you, I send you forth as sheep in the midst of wolves. Be ye therefore as wise as serpents and harmless as doves. But beware of men, for they will deliver you up to the councils, and they will scourge you in their synagogues. So basically, my point is, these people are looking for any opportunity to come against us. And as I said, it's the spirits that are on them that want to do this. Now, the reason why I'm saying that is because in that situation I just gave an example of, that we were standing literally not even a meter away from this man who was talking to these Christians who had come up to the camp before and been rebuked and gone on his way. And the brother's like, you recognize him, you recognize him. And I'm thinking to myself, but that guy can probably hear you. And even if he can't hear you, the spirit that's on him knows that you know, and it's watching you, and it's waiting for an opportunity for a situation to arise. Now, when you grow up in age, and you become more wise, you start to see things before they happen. You start to see the pieces of the puzzle which lead to an ultimate conclusion. You know, rather than just walking headlong into something with your eyes closed like you're sleepwalking, you should be able to be spiritual and discern that, hey, you know what? This action might lead to that action, and that action might lead to that action, and that action might lead to a conclusion that I don't want, or nobody wants. You know what I'm saying? So therefore you use your head and you think, okay, well, I'm not going to walk down that road. I'll turn right here. You know, metaphorically speaking, you should be able to see things from a distance. What did the scriptures say? A wise man foreseeth the danger, and he hideth himself. Let me try and find that. Bear with me. Let me see if I can find it. Bear with me. Yes, Proverbs 22 and 3. Finally found it. Slaki for that delay. Proverbs 22 and verse 3. Alright, this is Proverbs 22 and 3rd verse. It says, a prudent man foreseeth the evil and hideth himself, but the simple pass on and are punished. Let me read that again. A prudent man foreseeth the evil and hideth himself, but the simple pass on and are punished. So in that situation where we saw that guy talking to these group of Christians, and the brother recognized him, he's like, you recognize him? You recognize him? Let's use our heads. What is going to come out of that situation positive? You know, are we going to say, oh yeah, I recognize him? And then is that guy going to then turn around and say, oh yeah, you guys are the real Hebrew Israelites. Yeah, I believe now, I believe. Yeah, Yahweh Hashem, Yahweh Shai Barak. Is he going to turn around and say that? Chances are probably not. Chances are pretty slim, because he's already been rebuked. You know, he's already been rebuked and he's already gone on his way. The blood's off our hands. It really doesn't matter anymore. We've told him the word. He rejected it. He's gone. If we see him again, we don't even really need to talk to the guy. We don't even need to acknowledge the guy. He's nobody now, because we've done our work there. So what edification is going to come out of, like, oh, you recognize this guy? Yeah, I recognize this guy. Here's the guy who got cursed out on London Oxford Street by GMS London Central. Yeah, ha 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 ha. No, obviously we're probably not going to laugh at the guy, but you know, what's going to come out of that? The only thing that's possibly going to come out of that is that demon's going to take that energy, that fact that, oh, you recognize me, I recognize you. Oh, you're them guys who blah, 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 blah. Might start shouting and creating a scene. Now, furthermore, fact of the matter is this occurred after camp. So we were in civilian mode, you know, because I don't know if I'm the only body who thinks this, but when you're at camp,